Hello and welcome to The Hairdryer. I'm Richard Shute and I'm joined once again by Don Bossy and Seb Hassett. Well, we've got a packed show this week. We'll be talking about Harry Kewell's retirement, the new premiers, and also looking at the bumper crowds in the NPL. All this plus a quick look at the race for 6th. So Dom, where else to start but Harry Kewell's retirement? What's with the timing?
Well, there's only 3 games to go, so by announcing his retirement now, it does give him a proper send-off if he does get fit and he can return to the starting lineup. What it also tells me is he's actually been struggling all year. It's not like he's come out early in the season saying this will be my last year and then playing as hard as he can and it being a known fact. It says that he just can't really do it anymore. He's battled with injuries throughout the course of the season, as he has throughout his career. And whilst he has had some good moments there, they've been kind of few and far between. There's been a lot of time on the woodwork there. And more importantly, I think it gives Melbourne Heart a chance to rebuild. There's no dilemma whether Kewell will stay next year or not. They know where they're going, and they can already start planning for next season.
How's Harry going to be remembered, Seb?
Oh, look, it's a bit of a mixed bag with Harry. The immense talent, the legacy that he leaves in terms of what he managed to achieve when he was at the top of his game. I mean, these are huge, huge things. And I hope people do make an effort to remember the player that he was. Maybe not the player that he finished as. They're two different things because at the peak of his power, he was a spectacular player. And to my mind, the best player that we have ever produced. I think what happened perhaps after he left Leeds has left, to some extent, a slightly sour taste in the mouths of many, particularly those of us who have a fondness for the national team, and Harry may not have always shared that at times, but I think over the course of his career, he actually did warm to being part of the green and gold, and I think that, when on the balance of things, I think he can walk away from the game with his head held pretty high.
Well, there should be a bumper crowd for his send-off either way. Dom, we've got new premiers in the A-League. How did they make it look so easy?
Well, Richard, level heads prevail. It's as simple as that. Now, it might seem a bit weird saying that for a team that does have Besart Berisha up at the front, but there's a lot of stability at Brisbane Roar. Now, Mike Mulvey's really focused on what's already worked for them, and they've got a good balance of experience and youth. You only have to look at their midfield, which I think is the best in the comp. You have Liam Miller, Matt Mackay, and then in the middle of it, the best young midfielder in the competition in Luke Bratton. Now, that's worked really well, and their fluid and fast-paced game all starts from there. And more importantly, the squad retention there has been almost seamless and consistent since they started this magnificent run. There have been few changes there. There have been some guys have come in and out, but the core of the squad has remained the same. Matt Smith has still been there, Mike Theo, and Matt Mackay's now come back into a familiar environment, and most importantly, Tommy Broish.
Has Mike Mulvey found his level, or do you see bigger and better things for him?
Oh, look, I mean, for a guy to come in and in his first full season in charge do what he's done suggests he's got great potential as a manager. It's probably a bit early to say that he should be looking beyond Australia for his future and follow, for example, Graham Arnold over to Japan or something like that. We'd like to see Mike Mulvey do this year in, year out, maybe for a good 3 or 4 years before something bigger than the A-League is considered, but the signs are very, very promising. He likes good attacking football. He wants his players to get their foot on the ball. He's smart with the way he organises the team, and he's got a dressing room with a few egos in there, I might add, and he's managed them all beautifully, and he's got them playing for him. And he doesn't mind them telling them what to do. And at training yesterday, he absolutely flogged them, from what I understand. So even though they've already won the Premier's Plate, he's going to push them all the way. Interesting tactic. We'll see how that plays out comes final time.
Well, Raw fans will be hoping his head doesn't get turned anytime soon. Dom, we've had some really big crowds in the NPL this year. What's the story?
Well, in Sydney, arguably 2 of the biggest football games of the weekend were in the State League. You had Apia Leichhardt against Marconi. There was about nearly 6,000 people there at Lambert Park, the newly renovated Lambert Park, while at Olympic the official crowd figure was about 7,500. Now, I was there. I was expecting maybe a bit less than that, but still great crowd figures there. And there's a lot of interest. So Tidios Kyriakos, the Greek international, is at Olympic for a 2-game guest stint. Now that drew a lot of eyes and bums on seats there. But in Leichhardt, I think that says a bit more about the story. People want the history of the game to come back in now. The A-League played a role but now there's a bit of a hegemony between new football and old soccer, if you will, and the FFA Cup is providing it. And this is probably the first step of fan interest going below the A-League.
Do you see this scaling up to the A-League and the Socceroos?
Oh, I think that the NPL has a massive role to play in the foundation, the grassroots of the game. I mean, this is the touch point, really, for where we can and I think we've missed it actually, where the sort of elite level of the game has failed to connect with the grassroots. It has been that sort of missing link, if you will, and this is a bridge that I think the FFA realises needed to be built, and we want a strong and healthy NPL. It's not a rival to the A-League. We've got to blow that myth out of the water. That is just ridiculous. So the first step, we want to build on this. We want everyone to come together because we're all football fans, and we want good A-League teams. We want a strong Socceroos, and that starts with a sound grassroots. You can't just invent this from the top down, and we've almost tried to do that in a way, and we've gotten away with it for as long as possible now. But we need to start getting these pathways in order, and we want a healthy NPL. And what we saw over the weekend, the great crowds in Sydney, I think suggests that there is interest beyond the top tier, that people do want to have that feeling of community with their clubs. And these clubs do provide that, and they've got tremendous history as well, as Don mentioned. So, look, I think it's a really good thing, and now it's being rolled out across the country. Hopefully we'll see big crowds across Australia.
Well, David Gallop will be delighted with the early signs. So before we go, Dom, who's going to win the race for 6th spot in the A-League?
Well, it looks like it's going down between Newcastle Jets and Sydney FC. Now, who's going to win it? I don't know. Flip a coin. I don't punt on this league, and this is why. But Newcastle Jets have shown recently that they've got the firepower to really, take teams, tear them apart, really. And more importantly, they've got results against the best teams in the comp. They've beaten Brisbane Roar 3 times. They've gotten wins over Melbourne Victory and Western Sydney Wanderers. So if they do make the top 6, I think they'll do a bit more damage than Sydney FC will. In saying that, Sydney FC's probably got the easier run in. They've got their last 2 games at home and against Wellington Phoenix and Perth Glory. Now, I think they'll win both of those. So it'll be interesting how this goes down, but it's going to be very tight.
If the Jets make it into the top 6, Seb, will they have the other teams worried?
Oh, look, they've got the players to worry them. Adam Taggart being the primary one. I mean, he's just in such good form that you feel you could almost take him anywhere on any given day against any team, and he could do the business. I mean, gee, they've done it against Brisbane already this year. So, I mean, even the Roar would be concerned about facing Newcastle. They do have the X factor. There's no doubt about it. That can play it in a few different ways. However, there's no guarantee they'll even make the 6. And like Dom, I've got Sydney penciled in to win their last 2 games. That would mean Newcastle need to get 7 points. So I think you can almost look to this game coming up against Perth away for the Jets. If they can't win that, I reckon they're done.
So a defining weekend ahead.
Massive.
Well, that's it for now. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another episode of The Hairdryer.